Andrew Tate got his fucking face rocked by a person who punches like this.
Chin down, break your knees. I like that. Oh,
It's 2026, and somehow we're still talking about Andrew Tate. Yep.
When Andrew Tate lost to Chase Damore. And now he's going online and he's doing the babyface thing of like,
God decided on that day that that's what has to happen to me, so I did it.
your persona has nothing to do with failure. Your persona is about winning. Your persona is about achieving wealth and success.
The same Andrew Tate now getting called out as a hypocrite and a liar in 2026 of all years.
He should have never taken this fight. Is it fair to say that the greatest fraud check of all time happened on Saturday?
That alone tells you this year is already moving wild and reckless. So let's check what Mr. Tate is really doing in the big 26. Because if 2025 proved anything, it's that it was a crazy year where internet chaos finally came back around on some loud online figures. Back on December 20th, everyone watched the fight between Chase Damore and Andrew Tate.
I'll never forget it. He's super tall, bro, and like it's super intimidating when he has so many bodyguards around him, and he came in. I was so nervous, but when he stuck his hand out and smiled, I felt safe.
Who critics have long accused of shady behavior online. Going into that match, people swore Chase was about to get steamrolled like he had no chance at all. Even the commentators looked tense, like they were bracing for something ugly to happen right in front of them. And the reason was simple.
nobody in this arena believes in the champion, but the only person's opinion that matters is his as he dares to take out the Cobra.
Andrew Tate has always been marketed as a former professional fighter, a kickboxing champion, someone who was supposed to be levels above the rest. But that night flipped the script fast because instead of domination, Andrew Tate got rocked hard by someone swinging with raw, awkward power, the kind that doesn't care about reputation at all.
He didn't look good. There's no way to say he looked good. He looked gassed after 3 rounds.
I'm sorry, but if you lose to someone throwing punches like that, you really can't walk around calling yourself an alpha male or a sigma. That whole tough guy image falls apart real fast when this is the person who beat you. It makes people ask, how does anyone still claim that title after a loss like that? We're talking about someone who clearly isn't some elite boxing master, yet somehow that guy pushed Andrew Tate, who many online hype up as the so-called alpha male of a generation, straight to his breaking point and passed it. Watching the footage back, it honestly makes Tate look like someone who's barely been in a real boxing match at all. And the moment you see that, a red flag goes off in your head. It starts looking like a lot of that martial arts image was more talk than truth, more branding than skill. Andrew Tate built this online myth where he's painted as the savior of men, someone who's supposed to lead men towards some promised future of power and success. And sure, maybe that future exists, but only if that promised Neverland is packed with sad, lonely guys buying into a fantasy instead of reality. There are these so-called iconic creators aimed at both men and women. On one side, you've got voices online pushing extreme messages like you don't need men or all men are trash. And then on the other side, you've got the male version of that same energy. That's where figures like Tate and similar internet personalities show up, along with groups like Fresh and Fit, all pushing loud, corny confidence like it's wisdom. When you really sit back and think about it, you start realizing something uncomfortable. A lot of these guys just don't have much substance at all. It's honestly sad that young men see people like Andrew Tate and think this is such a great role model for me, or even say, I want to be like Andrew Tate, dead serious. And look, it's obvious why. They see the money, the watches, the houses, the cars, the flashy lifestyle. If that motivates you, fine, no judgment. But that's a classic case of the right goal with the wrong messenger. People like Andrew Tate and others like him shouldn't be treated like heroes or idols. Most of them talk big, but don't back it up when it actually matters. All noise and no real depth. Recently, there was all this hype about Andrew Tate supposedly fighting 60 men in a row, which already sounds wild. But what makes it even stranger is that if you watch the fight against Chase Damore, one thing stands out immediately. Tate was completely out of gas halfway through round 2.
I've not yet had time to process why he beat me. I got tired after the second round, and I don't know why.
I'm proud of myself for trying, and I went in there against the champion who's really good. No, you didn't. You went in there and you looked awful and you failed.
Why did I get tired? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The only thing that makes sense is that I was not supposed to win. Why was I not supposed to win?
So now the question becomes real simple. How does someone struggle after barely a round and a half, but somehow claims they can fight 60 people back to back? That math just isn't mathing. And the answer shows up fast if you watch even a few seconds of that so-called 60-man challenge. First off, he's facing people with way less experience than him. Most of these guys are much smaller, awkward, and honestly look like they've never thrown a real punch in their lives. When I first heard about the 60-man thing, I assumed it meant trained fighters, maybe real boxers or legit competitors. But nah, these dudes look completely lost in the ring, like they're figuring it out as they go. Maybe one or two look like they've sparred before. The rest just look uncomfortable, confused, and completely out of their depth, which makes the whole thing feel more like a setup than an actual test. And this is where it starts feeling like a really strange setup. If you actually look closely at the background of those videos, you can see Tate's opponents being run through brutal drills before they ever step into the ring. They're being pushed through non-stop exercises, clearly meant to wear them down before the fight even starts. Anyone who's spent real time training in martial arts knows exactly what that feels like. At the start of many classes, you're forced into intense physical drills just to get your blood pumping, and those drills are designed to drain you fast. Sometimes they're even more exhausting than the fight itself. In an actual fight, you can pace yourself. You can step back, defend, breathe, and slow things down. But when someone is ordering you through drills, there's no break at all. No pause, no recovery, just constant movement until your legs feel cooked. That's what every one of those guys went through before facing Tate. So he wasn't just fighting inexperienced opponents, he was fighting tired, inexperienced opponents. If anyone honestly believed Andrew Tate was gonna step in and fight 60 real trained boxers and win, come on, let's be serious. That's never happening. Not now, not ever.
Like this 60-man thing, I assumed it would be like against actual boxers or something like that.
He wouldn't even make it past the first 5 opponents, and that's being generous. Like one guy already said, this whole thing feels completely staged. It's the same energy as someone announcing, "I'll fight 100 men to prove I'm the ultimate Sigma," and then hiding the fine print at the bottom that says the opponents are clearly limited, untrained, and chosen to make the challenge easy. At that point, of course you're gonna win. It doesn't prove dominance, skill, or greatness. It just proves the setup was designed for one outcome. And that's why no serious, level-headed man watched those clips and said, "No way, Andrew Tate just beat 40 guys. That's insane. This is why he's a top G." That reaction just didn't happen in real life. Most people saw it for what it was: carefully selected opponents, controlled conditions, and a story crafted to look way more impressive than it actually was. Now, some people jump in and say, okay, but what about Andrew Tate's multiple title wins? And that's where things need to be looked at honestly. Does it look like Andrew Tate spent real time kickboxing? Yes, absolutely. You can see the training, the experience, the fundamentals. But was he one of the best fighters in the world at the highest level? That's a completely different question. And once you dig into it, the legend starts sounding a lot louder than the reality. And this is where things start getting a little more complicated. The organizations he won titles in, including Fusion, aren't fake or made up. They're legit and respected on a certain level. But let's be clear, these are not top-tier, world-class organizations by global standards. Historically, groups like these have been seen as stepping stones. They're feeder leagues that push fighters toward bigger stages like K1 or Pride, not the final destination themselves. That matters when people start throwing around words like elite and world-beating.
They are legitimate and they are respected, but for the most part, they've been like historically seen as feeder organizations into more well-established places, and not of a global standard.
He wouldn't even make it past the first 5 opponents, and that's being generous. Like one guy already said, this whole thing feels completely staged. It's the same energy as someone announcing, "I'll fight 100 men to prove I'm the ultimate Sigma," and then hiding the fine print at the bottom that says the opponents are clearly limited, untrained, and chosen to make the challenge easy. At that point, of course you're gonna win. That doesn't prove dominance, skill, or greatness. It just proves the setup was designed for one outcome. And that's why no serious, level-headed man watched those clips and said, "No way, Andrew Tate just beat 40 guys. That's insane. This is why he's a top G." That reaction just didn't happen in real life. Most people saw it for what it was: carefully selected opponents, controlled conditions, and a story crafted to look way more impressive than it actually was. Now, some people jump in and say, "Okay, but what about Andrew Tate's multiple title wins?" And that's where things need to be looked at honestly. Does it look like Andrew Tate spent real-time kickboxing? Yes, absolutely. You can see the training, the experience, the fundamentals. But was he one of the best fighters in the world at the highest level? That's a completely different question. And once you dig into it, the legend starts sounding a lot louder than the reality. And this is where things start getting a little more complicated. The organizations he won titles in, including Fusion, aren't fake or made up. They're legit and respected on a certain level. But let's be clear, these are not top-tier, world-class organizations by global standards. Historically, groups like these have been seen as stepping stones. They're feeder leagues that push fighters toward bigger stages like K1 or Pride, not the final destination themselves. That matters when people start throwing around words like elite and world beating.
This is someone who purposefully fights more skilled opponents in order to pad out their record.
So how do you check that? You look at the competition. When you break down the names Andrew Tate fought in those organizations, the picture gets clearer real fast. Take fighters whose only recorded match was against Andrew Tate. That alone raises eyebrows. Others on the list have very short records, losing more fights than they win, or barely competing at all outside of those bouts. You're seeing a pattern. These weren't long-established dominant fighters with deep careers. They were mostly low-experience opponents, people passing through the circuit rather than ruling it. Now, does that mean Andrew Tate never trained or never fought? No, he clearly put in work and stepped into the ring. But when people hype those wins like they prove unmatched greatness, it starts sounding exaggerated. Context matters, and once you add that context, the legend doesn't hit quite as hard anymore. I've been in like 3 or 4 fights myself, and for the record, I won them all. Does that suddenly make me a professional legend? Should those count towards some official record where I'm undefeated and crowned the greatest fighter alive? Because if that's how this works, then congratulations, I'm the GOAT too. That's how ridiculous this logic sounds. Winning a couple random fights doesn't suddenly turn someone into an all-time great. You don't get to rewrite history like that and expect people to clap. It's the same energy as someone saying, "I won a bar fight once, so clearly I'm the greatest fighter of my generation." Come on now, that's not how reality works. And yet, Andrew Tate talks about his past opponents like he was going up against prime Conor McGregor or Brock Lesnar every weekend. That just doesn't match the records. You start looking at the names and stats, and the pattern keeps repeating. Fighters with only a few matches, more losses than wins, or Andrew Tate being their very first or second fight ever. Some of them do have a couple solid wins, sure, but when most of the record is losses, it makes you wonder why these matchups are being hyped so hard. When you slow it down and actually look at the details, it stops feeling legendary and starts feeling way more ordinary than advertised.
Stranger is if we go to the bottom of his win-losses here, we can see he lost his first match in 4 minutes, round 1. He lost his second match in just over 1 minute.
But there's one fighter on that list that really jumped out to me as genuinely strange, and his name is Miralem Ahmedi. And there are 2 things about this situation that just don't sit right. First off, if you look at the top of his public fight profile, there's a warning attached to it. It straight up says this fighter has engaged in activity that doesn't meet proper combat sports standards. It claims he repeatedly took fights where there was no real path to winning, showed little competitive effort, and was consistently matched against opponents far more skilled than him. In plain language, this looks like someone who knowingly fought stronger opponents just to fill out other people's records. That alone is already wild. But it gets even weirder when you scroll down and actually read his fight history. He lost his first match in 4 minutes in round 1. His second loss happened in just over a minute. The third loss came in under 30 seconds. Then another loss barely past 30 seconds. Then another in under a minute. And it just keeps going like that, over and over again. Loss after loss, almost all in the first round. And then suddenly, after all of that, in 2020, this same fighter steps in to fight Andrew Tate. That's when the eyebrows really go up, because at that point, it doesn't look competitive at all. It looks like a pattern that raises way more questions than answers. So what do we take away from all of this? A pretty clear and obvious attempt to mislead people. It's honestly hard to see how Andrew Tate fans are going to defend this one. The pattern is clear as day, no mystery at all. This looks like a strategy to artificially boost numbers, rack up wins, stack the record, and then say, look, I'm undefeated, while hoping nobody actually checks who those wins came from. Because the moment you look closer, the illusion starts cracking. It's all about inflating stats, beating opponents who exist mainly to make others look better on paper. You end up with a shiny record that sounds impressive until someone actually digs into it.
That is not the kind of person you fight, and that's because this is all about creating this online persona, this illusion.
It's like saying, this guy is 11-1. That means he must be legit, right? But then you check the history and realize most of those opponents were there to lose. In simple terms, they weren't respected competitors. They were placeholders. That's how someone can claim, I'm 20-0, nobody can beat me. But then you ask the real question, who were those 20 people? Once you look them up, the answer is obvious. They weren't elite, they weren't threats, they were just random individuals used to pad records. And when you strip away the numbers and look at reality, it becomes clear. The record looks way better than the actual skill behind it. I honestly want to see how the most die-hard Andrew Tate fans try to spin this one. The usual move is, you're just jealous, but that excuse doesn't really hold up here. If someone wants to prove they're a legitimate fighter, this is not the kind of opponent list you build. Because at the end of the day, this was never about pure competition. It was about crafting an online persona, selling an image, building an illusion. And the real issue is that Tate started believing that image himself, like the hype became his reality. Watching the actual fight, especially the early rounds, I'm not gonna pretend it looks impressive. And that's not me trying to be disrespectful or cruel. Honestly, neither fighter looks particularly sharp at any point. By the later rounds, you can literally see Tate slow down hard. His movement fades, his energy drops, and he starts taking clean shots. It's like watching someone run out of steam in real time. Back in the day, people used to hype up fantasy matchups with Tate facing well-known influencer fighters, not fights I ever cared about still. And let's be real for a second. If Andrew Tate stepped in with serious, well-conditioned opponents at that level, the outcome wouldn't be close. The gap would show fast. Hype can only carry you so far. Eventually, reality steps in and checks the whole story.
Yeah, obviously I didn't get the result I wanted, but truthfully the result I wanted was to see if I could still do it.
Even if you think certain influencer fighters are overhyped, I genuinely believe either Paul brother would beat Andrew Tate within 2 rounds. And I don't want to hear the excuse that he's too old now. When you look back at his so-called prime, he still wasn't facing top-level competition. People talk about his past like he was going up against legendary heavy hitters every week, and that just wasn't the case. The names don't back that story up at all. And honestly, the fact that I'm even saying something remotely positive about the Paul brothers should tell you everything you need to know. That alone shows how overrated Andrew Tate's fighting reputation really is. By the end of the fight, Tate has absolutely nothing left. No gas, no pop, no answers. It's like watching one of those cartoon scenes where a smaller character keeps swinging and nothing they do makes a difference. He just keeps getting hit over and over with no way to turn it around. It's not dramatic, it's not heroic, it's just a harsh reality setting in. And honestly, it's one of the biggest reality checks I've seen someone experience in real time. The image cracks, the hype fades, and what's left is very different from the legend people were sold. Andrew Tate lost this fight, and yeah, losing absolutely sucks. Nobody likes taking an L. That part is universal. But what makes this situation annoying is what Tate does after the loss. He pulls that move I seriously can't stand, where he starts listing excuse after excuse, then finishes it with, "But I'm not making excuses." Like, come on. He'll say things like, "I could say I'm too old," or "I could say he was heavier than me," or "I could say he leaned on me and wore me down," and then tries to act noble by saying he won't say it. The problem is, you already did. The moment you list them out, you handed your audience all the ammo they need. Now his fans can run around saying, Tate would have won if this was different, or if that didn't happen, he wins easy. Nah, that's not how it works. You lost because you weren't ready for that fight on that night, period. And look, losing isn't fun. Nobody enjoys it. Everyone wants to win. That's human nature. But you don't get to rewrite reality just because it hurts.
He was the man who won. He deserves this victory. Truthfully, completely, and honestly, I'm actually very proud of him.
As far as his skill and ability, it underdelivered.
Did Tate look bad?
Yeah, he looked bad.
Sometimes you take the loss, put your head down, and admit, today just wasn't my day. That's real confidence. Everything else is just noise. Yeah, tomorrow always brings a new chance, a new opportunity to move forward. You can't win every single time. That's just life. But Andrew Tate doesn't come off like someone owning a loss. He comes off like a very sore loser trying to convince himself and his fans that nothing actually happened.
Without understanding that there's a grander plan, a plan that's bigger than just you and your ego. The plan is bigger than just us and our egos, guys.
It feels like nonstop self-gaslighting. Like, no, don't question me. Don't doubt me. Please don't cancel your subscription. I'm still a great fighter. Just trust me.
With mocking and things on the internet, Chase doesn't need the loss right now. Andrew can handle the loss better. Maybe God decided.
That's the energy. Constantly begging people not to look too closely. Just trust. Don't think. Don't check the record. Don't watch the fight. Don't ask about the 40 guys I supposedly beat. That's not confidence. That's panic wrapped in loud talking. And honestly, watching Tate get beaten by someone who isn't even known as a high-level fighter is the cherry on top. Because how are you going to brand yourself as the ultimate alpha, the top sigma, the greatest man alive, and then fall apart and complain when things don't go your way? That image collapses fast under pressure. A real man takes the loss quietly. No excuses, no speeches, no spin. You take the L, lock in, learn from it, and come back better. That's strength. Everything else is just noise and damage control. And this is really where the whole persona finally cracks wide open, because when the cameras stop rolling and the hype dies down, all that's left is performance versus reality. You can talk big online, flash money, and repeat motivational slogans all day, but none of that replaces accountability. The whole alpha image only works when everything goes your way. The second pressure hits, the second something doesn't go as planned, the mask slips. That's what people saw in real time. Not confidence, not discipline, just damage control. Real strength isn't yelling into a microphone or flexing stats nobody checks. Real strength is silence, reflection, and growth. It's taking a hit, learning the lesson, and leveling up without begging for validation. Instead, what we saw was someone trying to hold on to a collapsing narrative, repeating the same lines, doubling down, hoping the audience doesn't notice the cracks spreading everywhere. And the truth is simple. Respect isn't demanded, it's earned. You don't earn it by pretending losses didn't happen or by spinning stories to protect an image. If there's anything to take away from all this, it's that reality always shows up eventually. No filters, no hype, no shortcuts.
If God decides that for some reason he's going to instantly gas me when I was in perfect physical condition so that I lose, then I have to accept God's decision.
When that moment comes, you either face it head on or get exposed trying to outrun it. And this time, the spotlight didn't lie. And the wildest part in all of this, none of it had to go this way. This only blew up because the image was built way bigger than the truth. When you sell yourself as untouchable, unbeatable, and above criticism, every crack turns into a full collapse. What people are really reacting to isn't just the fight loss, it's the pattern. The loud claims, the constant chest puffing, followed by quiet backpedaling when reality hits. That's why so many viewers are waking up now. They're starting to notice the difference between real discipline and online theatrics, between actual confidence and non-stop self-promotion. And once that switch flips, it doesn't flip back. You can't unsee the gaps. You can't unknow what you now understand. This isn't about hate, it's about clarity. The internet finally slowed down enough to look closely instead of just cheering loudly. At the end of the day, strength isn't about pretending you're perfect. It's about showing growth when things go wrong. The audience is smarter now. They're asking better questions. And when people stop buying the image, all that's left is the truth. And that truth doesn't need yelling. It speaks for itself. And that's really where this whole saga lands. When the noise fades and the clips stop looping, what people are left with isn't inspiration, it's disappointment. Not because someone lost the fight, but because the story sold for years didn't match reality.
Fuck all that. I want to win so that no one on the internet laughs at me.
This was never just about punches or records. It was about honesty. You can't spend years telling people you're untouchable, unbeatable, and above everyone else, then fall apart the moment things don't go your way. The internet is brutal like that. It remembers everything. The quotes, the boasts, the promises. And once the curtain gets pulled back, there's no way to tape it back together. Real confidence doesn't need constant reminders. Real strength doesn't need excuses. And real growth doesn't happen in front of a camera begging for approval. At the end of the day, everyone loses sometimes. The difference is how you handle it. Do you reflect, improve, and move smarter? Or do you double down and pretend nothing happened? So here's the real question people should be asking now. Is Andrew Tate actually ready to evolve and be honest with himself? Or is he going to keep selling the same image until nobody's buying anymore? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I really do read them. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into influencer and media industry drama, power abuse behind the scenes, and the stories that don't get talked about enough. This story might be over on TV, but online, it's far from finished. And the next one is already lining up. I'll see you in the next video.